Hello guys, I just want to apologize for not being able to stay on the call. I had a senior physicist on at the hospital that I was working at, University of Tyler Hospital System, and so I was University of Texas Tyler Health System. So I was working with a senior physicist who also owns the physics group I work with, and I mixed up the time. I'm sorry, or the time mix up just made it tricky. So I'm grateful to Menasara and Joseph and Stephanie, my wife, for jumping in and hearing the questions. So I want to answer some specific questions. First of all, I have a lot of testimonials, but I've been doing this for 12 years. I've taught ACT, SAT prep. I've helped kids get into different colleges, and I love doing that. One of the things I've been focused on more recently is preparing kids to go into MIT, Harvard, Stanford, and so on. And so I've visited MIT and Harvard, Columbia, and some other universities, and I hope to continue building a relationship with MIT, especially because of math. When it comes to math and computer science, there's these two universities, MIT and Cambridge, that I would put as the very top. Princeton, MIT, Princeton, and Cambridge. Anyways, the top mathematicians in the world today, Andrew Wiles is at Oxford, but he was trained at Princeton. Terence Tao is in UCLA in Los Angeles, California. That's a very good university. He was trained in Princeton. So Princeton is where Albert Einstein died. Like he was working, that was where he was working when he died. So Princeton is good. Cambridge, MIT are the best for math. So in this video, I'm going to go over a little bit of how does the American education system work? Let's compare it to Nigeria, and then I would love any questions you have. So let's start from scratch. From birth to age 4 in America, it's they call it preschool. If you want, you can stay. Sometimes you could have mothers or that you could have families that decide we want to stay home, or they can send them to a preschool. That's very typical. And actually, some of those preschools, the government will help families that can't afford. That's how that works. Kindergarten in America varies from 4th to 6th grade. And so you have students who are 4, 5 going into kindergarten. Those who are 5, 6 going into kindergarten. Some parents wait till 6. Just a random fact, the best country outside of the Asian countries, because Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, they consistently rank top in math and science. But the other country that is one of the best in education is Finland, and Finland they don't start kindergarten until later. So the age at which you start really depends on, is that child ready, and all those kinds of questions. So that's why I put, it's a tricky range here, but that's the first step. This is the age, so I'm gonna do the first batch here, and then I'm gonna come down to the second batch, and then there's a third batch. So the first batch, when you're 7 years old, using this formula, you would be in first grade in America, you would be in primary 1 in Nigeria. When you're in 8 years old, you'll be in second grade in America, you'll be in primary 2. In America, they call it elementary schools. In Nigeria, of course, we call it primary schools. America speaks different English, right? Their spellings are a little different. Not a major problem, but it's just the Nigerian system and the British, English system will use the primary. So primary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this is where it gets different. In America, they don't typically skip grades. In Nigeria, when I was growing up, you were allowed to skip if your National Common Entrance exam was good. And by God's grace, I scored well in the National Common Entrance, so I skipped to JSS 1. Here in America, you would do first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. That's how it flows. Their grade systems are just first, second, third grade, all the way to 12th grade. That's their K-12 system. After 12th grade, you go to university. We'll come back for more here in a second. So then age 14, you do 8th grade, 15, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. And I'll talk about college. But notice that in Nigeria, that 6th grade, skipping 6th grade, means that you have a little bit of extra time here. And now I would love if you guys gave me the UK version. Maybe when I come to Cambridge or later. I have a Cambridge textbook for chemistry and math, because I was actually hoping to make math videos for students in England. And so anyways, if there's any resources you can send our way too, no problem. Any documents that breaks down education in the UK. Before I go on, this all the way to about 5th grade is called elementary school, but some schools actually counted all the way 6th grade, just a minor situation there. 7th grade and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are called middle school, and then 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade are called high school. Okay, so that's the flow. Now, college would be, this is called a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. Those are the 4 years of college. If you decide after your first degree that you want to go further, then you could do a master's in, let's say, in economics. You could do a master's in economics, you could do a master's in electrical engineering, or a master's in, whatever you want to do a master's in. So you could do a master's, that's generally 2 years, 23 and 24. and then you're done. You're gonna just be working, right? But if you choose to go the professional route, then you can do a medical school. So in the US, you go for pre-med for 4 years. Your first degree is called pre-med. So I was a pre-med chemistry major and a minor in philosophy, but I loved teaching and apologetics, and that's why I moved into academia and didn't go to the pediatrician route that brought me here originally. My parents have forgiven me, don't worry, it's okay, but that's kind of what happened. Okay, I'm joking, there was no pressure from them. So that's medical school is 4 years after your undergraduate degree. And then after those 4 years, you do 4 years of residency. Okay, so that's 8 years after you're done with your so you've done 12 years of school after you finish secondary school. And then if you want to become a surgeon, like a neurosurgeon or orthopedic surgeon, you have to do a fellowship. Notice there's no space there. Basically, just plan to not have a life. You're not going to have a life, right? For a season. And then when you finish, maybe add another 3 years. Actually, make it another 2 years here. So basically, after your 12th grade, you need to plan for 14 more years of schooling if you want to be a doctor. But they start paying you at the beginning of this residency. Now, the salary is nothing compared to what you will make when you graduate, but they'll start paying you during your residency. And during your medical school, you don't actually get a lot of scholarship opportunities for full rides. So you need to pay for that. The total amount you pay for medical school is about $300,000. The total amount you get in residency is about $50,000 maybe a year, so about $200,000, right? So you have $300,000 in medical school, and then you have $200,000 that you will be earning over the course of 4 years. When you become a doctor, depending on what specialty, your salary could range anywhere from $200,000 to $1.2 million, right? Depending on your specialty, depending on where you work, right? And standard of living, things like that. So that just gives you some reference. If you want a video where I go into more of those details, no problem, I can do that later. A lot of my friends are doctors now. I went a different track. Okay, I'm a medical physicist by training, working with mostly radiologists and interventional radiologists, cardiologists, interventional cardiologists, and things like that. Okay, so that's the scope for American education. Notice that some people, like neurosurgeons, they don't become independent neurosurgeons till they're 32, 33. Okay, so that's that. If you go into a STEM PhD, though, so let's say I finish my degree in my undergraduate degree in chemistry, and I decide I want to become a professor of chemistry, then I can actually skip the master's and go straight into a PhD program. That's actually typical, and then you do it for about 5 years, and then you become a professor of chemistry, or you go into industry. It's up to you. I did a year of my PhD program in physical chemistry as well as in STEM education, and then I took a break, which is still ongoing right now. For a story for another day. Okay, so let's now talk about journey through numbers, from counting to calculus with Amosthemathguy. I want to talk about how that ties into this and this whole idea of 60 credits. Before I do that though, quick commercial break. Did you know that the oldest university in Europe, apart from the University of Bologna in Italy, is Oxford? Around 1096, that's when Oxford came. Cambridge came around 1209, and it came as a result of some people that left Oxford. There was some trouble that happened, and they left Oxford and went to Cambridge. Notice that America as a nation didn't happen until 1776. And so we have, you guys in the UK, you guys had universities like for many years before we got a nation in America. Harvard University came around 1636. By the way, random fact, Isaac Newton was born in 1642. So that's how young Harvard is in reference to Cambridge and Oxford, right? Isaac Newton was born when Harvard was just starting. Okay, so then we get America. Princeton comes along here as well. So between the 1700s, we get Harvard, we get Princeton, some of those universities. MIT and Stanford did not start till 1860, 1891. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but the wheelchair that Stephen Hawking used, the professor at Cambridge, who was in a wheelchair, that was built by MIT. MIT is exceptional in engineering. They're one of the best in the universe. Stanford is exceptional in chemistry and medicine and many fields as well. Those two universities, some of the best. Now, they're on the opposite coast. Stanford is all the way in California. MIT is all the way in the East Coast. Okay, So this was just a random list I found. Top 10 colleges, like the oldest colleges in America. It was Harvard, the College of William and Mary, St. John's College, Yale, University of Pennsylvania, Moravian College, Delaware, Princeton, Washington and Lee, and Columbia. Again, I'm willing to help students in all of those. When I applied to come to school in America, I actually wanted to go to Johns Hopkins or one of the other top schools. And so the process for that was, there are people, and we have some more people that I didn't think about for collaboration who actually are on the ground in Abuja and Jos. And one of them is a mentor of mine, and he helped me come to America. And he worked for the U.S. Embassy Education Advising Center, helping students go to schools all over America. And his name is Dr. Newton Obaka. And so I'll be talking with Dr. Obaka just to kind of bring him up to speed on what we're working on. Dr. Obaka has extensive experience on education in America because that's what he did for the Education Advising Center. His PhD was in library science. Okay, so basically when we look at American Ivy League schools, the standard is you basically take the SAT 1, which is a general SAT exam everybody takes. You take the SAT 2, which is basically like JAM. So when I took the SAT 2, I would take the SAT 2 in chemistry or physics and math. So you pick specific subjects, right? So it gives you this extra boost. That's the way it was. COVID disrupted a little bit of that, but we're going back to that right now. There's a lot of schools going back to standardized testing. So you take SAT 1, SAT 2, you get 3 letters of recommendation, you get your application filled out, you pay your application fee. And again, I can help with any of these processes if anybody has any questions. What are your extracurricular activities? What are the things that what is your letter explaining or like your personal statement? What's your vision for life? Again, I can help with any of those to navigate to come to the US. So that's kind of the set. And my document, or not my document, but the document I shared with you has some of these outlined for each university. In America, the admissions people are very, very kind and nice to talk to. So you can literally we can email them. I can email and say, excuse me, I have a certain student who's interested in MIT for computer science. Here's, what do you need from them? Okay, great. We should probably be looking at these conversations. If somebody wants to go to MIT or Stanford and they know for a fact that they want to go to MIT or Stanford, we should really be looking at it before 9th grade, before high school. That's very important that we start thinking ahead of time. No problem though. Now, for now, maybe somebody's already in these spots. No problem. Just let's just. I'm saying in the future, we need to be thinking far ahead because MIT is much more difficult to get into. People that even have a perfect score on their ACT don't make it into MIT. So that's not the only thing that's necessary. I do want to mention now, let's bring it home to how does Amos's program in maths and science, because my program is actually a math science combined program. The science piece I just started integrating. As I've studied Newton's work, I've decided, instead of selling a separate science course and a separate math course, let's just teach math and science together, which is what Isaac Newton did. Isaac Newton used to be, actually he went to school to study law because there was no physics, because there was no Newton yet, right? That's a fact that I thought was interesting. Newton didn't give us a lot of what he gave us till 1661 when he had, 1661 to 1665, very productive years at Cambridge. Okay, so what happens is in American universities, you have each year you get 30 credits. So if I want to become a chemistry major, for example, I have to take General Chemistry 1, General Chemistry 2. Each of those classes has a number of credits. So you need 120 credits. Generally, 60 of those credits are really connected to your major. And the other 60 are things like Writing 101, Writing 102, Psychology 101, Sociology 101. So in American universities, you have to take all these courses that have nothing to do with your actual major. So I had nothing, I took Psychology 101, but it had nothing to do with me being a chemistry major, right? And so that's something to keep in mind with American universities, is this idea of they call it liberal arts education, and it's not the word liberal like the liberal political. No, this is more liberal in the sense of variety and exploration and discovery and this and that. And it's just sometimes that can be troubling because you pay money for those classes. Like you have to take theater. I took theater. Well, you don't have to, but that was one of the electives. I had to take theater. And theater, nothing wrong with theater, but it's just like I wanted to be a chemist, right? And then you tell me, nope, you have to pay this much to graduate. Those specifics for college credits and different categories, we can talk about that in more detail. That's something that when the student comes to America, we can help them navigate. And that's the other thing with our program is we can help the students navigate things. Just so you know, we can help them navigate things when they arrive. So you guys can be guaranteed that when your students come, they have advocates in America for them already. So you need 30, 30, 30, 30, and then you graduate. So you graduate when you get 120 credits, which takes 4 years using the traditional American route. And this usually costs anywhere from, let's say, 60,000 if you don't get a lot of scholarships, to 120,000. Again, this is just a range. Some schools are much more expensive. This is where our program is interesting. We have a relationship with a university in Texas, and our program is applicable even if somebody is in Nigeria. So if somebody is in Nigeria and you introduce me to them here, I can begin to help them actually get some credit and preparation. So this is how it works. The way it works is that these credits here, I can actually help people eliminate those. So then they actually only do 2 years. So while they're still young, so 16, 17, 18, I push this back. So basically I'm able to take these classes and push it back. But how am I able to do that? Well, I'll give you a practical example with just math and science. We do this for more than math and science, but I'll just give you an example. So basically my program literally cuts people's tuition in half. If they do the work, it cuts their tuition in half because they don't have to take those classes again. Let me show you one book to explain this point. So the College Board is the organization that does the SAT exam. And that's the exam that people that go to MIT or Stanford or UCLA, that's one of the exams they have to take. That same organization does a test called CLEP. The CLEP exam is from the same company that does the SAT. The reason for the CLEP test is this. In America, America is one of the countries where you can pivot the most. Like for real, I know a lawyer that became a physician's assistant. I know a music conductor that became a medical doctor. Like you literally can pivot in America. There's programs to help you get into the different fields of study that you might like. And so here's how this works. Imagine you're 35 years old. You've worked at a law firm and you feel like, you know what, I'm just tired. I want to go try a different thing. And then you say, I want to become a nurse. Okay. Then you look at a nursing program and they tell you you need chemistry 1, chemistry this, you need this math class and that math class. And you say to yourself, I'm 35 years old. I can't go back and get 4-year degree right now. I just need to get caught up and go into my nursing program. That's where this program comes in. The CLEP test will give you the credits for the class, chemistry, and you just simply have to study, understand the material, and pass the test, and you get the credit, and that's it. And you could study, let's say, for 7 weeks and take the test, you pass it, we're good. So then you do that for a bunch of classes at the age of 35, and you pretty much get all your prerequisites covered, and then you go to nursing school. Do you see? That's what these exams are for. They cut down the work. But here's what's interesting. A lot of these exams and these models can be used by someone who's 10 years old. So if you have somebody who's literally 10 or 11 or 12 and they're a prodigy, they can start taking CLEP tests. And there are people that do that starting at 12, 13, 14. They start with like US history, Western civilization. So what ends up happening is that those people are getting college credits stacking up for them, and they graduate, and they graduate at 19 from their undergraduate degree. I want to say one more practical application of this, and then I'll end with a note on a few majors. The reason why I like helping people cut down on time in college is that, number one, there's a lot of waste. Let me grab another book here. So we use New General Maths in Nigeria. We used to use it, and I have copies of it in America because it's a very good textbook. But in New General Maths, in 12th grade, people actually might not realize, but they do calculus. It's part of the coursework that we do in Nigerian schools. But did you know that the material in calculus can be learned at any point you don't have to wait till university, but some people wait till university. Well, here's the thing, and this is a practical application of how my program helps. My program, Counting to Calculus, removes the idea of 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade math. And it basically gives you all the math topics, 248. That's the exact number of topics from basic math all the way to calculus. And what I do is I get people to calculus as soon as 9th grade, if they're ready for it, right? And then the idea is that they do calculus 1, calculus 2, calculus 3, differential equations, linear algebra, statistics. So they're doing all the math that they would have done. Like, let's say they want to be engineers. I'm cutting down the amount of time that they would need to do that in college, and all these credits are adding up. And so when they graduate high school, they literally have just 2 years left. So we do that for the following courses: Calculus 1, Calculus 2, Calculus 3, linear algebra, differential equations, statistics, chemistry, biology, physics. So that's 27 credits right there. So I've given them 27 credits just in the math and science side. We also have Western civilization, sociology, psychology, writing, nutrition and wellness. Students have to take that kind of class, okay? So notice that as we're counting each one of these, that's 3 credits. These are like the courses you would normally be doing when you're 19 years old in a university, but the courses are literally, some of them are very easy and you could just get them out of the way. So that's how the 60 college credits adds up. You need 120 credits to graduate. We get you 60 so that you only need to do 60. But if you're coming from Nigeria, again, you can tap into this program. But let's say you don't want to tap into that and you just want to go to Harvard, okay? Well, if you want to go to Harvard, we should start talking about it pretty early. We should look at your goals. We should look at where you headed. And that's part of why this conversation about these years here are really critical, because we need to know where you're going so that we can better assist you to get to your destination. Like, that's such a critical question I like to ask people. What's your vision? And then some people say, I don't know. Well, then let's help you figure that out. What are you good at? What do you love doing? And so on and so forth. I have a whole class that just focuses on career preparation. I have the book somewhere. But anyways, let me end with 2 books. So I have a few books here. I don't want to overwhelm people with books. This one is just a side note. This is the Singapore's Secret to World-Class Math Curriculum. So Singapore is like #1 consistently in math in the world, and there's stuff we can learn from them. This is a book written by the U.S. Secretary of Education under one of the presidents. It's called The Educated Child. And what he does is he goes over, you give him a grade level. So like 3rd grade or kindergarten, what should kids be learning in kindergarten? What should kids be learning in 1st grade, and so on and so forth. There was a time where we needed grade-based learning as rigid as this. In America, though, the education system is at a point where it's okay. It has different models. It has Montessori schools, classical schools, STEM schools. It has a lot of variation in different opportunities for education. And I would say that I prefer a different model. This is called the Third Education Revolution by Dr. Vishal Mangalwadi and David Marshall. They edited a few essays. And I think that there's a lot of good stuff in this book. I'll make discussion questions and videos on this another time. But the point of the story is, America is a great place to get an education, especially if you have vision and direction, because you can maximize opportunities like nobody's business. I mean, it's unbelievable. You can maximize opportunities. So this here, 4 years, and then down here, we need to really help people figure out where they're going. And based on where they're going, I can make a plan specific for that child. So you tell me who a child is, I'll write a plan. I did one for an orthopedic surgeon. I'll share it in the description section. He wants to be an orthopedic surgeon. So I wrote a plan. I made a video for him on how to get there. So I love talking about vision. I don't know if you have any questions. What are the majors that I wanted to say? Chemistry, as I said, is a great major right now to get into. Physics is always good. Math is wonderful. Computer science. This book just came in the mail. It's a happy day for me. Mathematics for machine learning. And part of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to extract what are the specific topics for people in machine learning, right? This is one of the top computer science, one of the best computer science productivity people I know, Cal Newport, that I know of. And his book is here. He went to MIT, and he does a great job talking about basically how to be a good student, which is something I talk about. Let me end with these couple of books. This one teaches people how to practice. This is how I help people get perfect scores or close or raise their score. I want them to get perfect scores. But this one is called Peak, how all of us can achieve extraordinary things. If there's one book from everything I've talked about today that is worth reading, it's this book. Because this book does an excellent job explaining how the whole idea of 10,000 hours and having a coach will help with mastery. The point I've made about my curriculum is not foreign. Like it's not like I'm a radical and way out of place. No, there's actually a book here called Rethinking Math Learning from Dr. Aditya Nagrath. It says teach your kids 1 year of math in 3 months. So the American math curriculum is literally you can finish a whole year in 3 months. That's part of the process I noticed in writing my program, which I'll talk about my program in a different video. But if you have any questions on it, let me know. The last book I'm going to talk about with you, other than there's a few other books here. Sorry, this video has gone too long, but there's a few other books here. I'll show you at least, if that's okay. What I'll do is I'll just record a clip of the books, and then you can kind of just see the books and pause and see them. Or I'll just take a picture of the stack. This is Conrad Wolfram. With the stack here, by the way, some of these books are just like stories of people or autobiographies or biographies to inspire your students. That's part of what I do with students who want to come. I want to inspire them to think and dream big, and that's part of how I think they can get a vision for life. This man is from England, Conrad Wolfram. He went to Eton College, I believe is what you guys call it, and then he went to Cambridge, actually. He's the one behind, him and his brother, and there's, of course, a team, are behind Wolfram Alpha and Mathematica. Can you imagine that the man behind one of the most complex computer programs in the world has written a book called The Math Fix, an education blueprint for the AI age? He's concerned about math education. Imagine a world of machine learning, and we're still using some of the textbooks that people would have used in 1922, right? Before there was the internet. It is time for an education revolution on different fronts. It is time for an education revolution on the grade-based learning needs to go, and mastery-based needs to take over, and integrative classical approach needs to happen. That's number one. But another thing that needs to happen, of course, is what are the topics that we are teaching? What are the concepts that we're expecting students to learn? That's part of what he talks about. So thank you so much for watching this video. I am more than willing to answer any questions. I know there was a lot of information there, but we know the processes. We can help you with any of the processes. Depending on what type of school people want to get into, we need to start thinking ahead of the time. So maybe in our portal, I'll put a portal in my learning management system where it allows them to write their passions and ambitions, and then I can begin to think about what colleges. And I really appreciate your feedback as we build the LMS to kind of work for both of us, right? For US and the UK and Scotland. Well, I guess UK includes Edinburgh, because Edinburgh is one of my favorite places in the world. So, well, you guys have a blessed day. Thank you so much again for everything, and I look forward to working with you all.